Wow. I'll talk a little bit about some of the equity work and connecting kids that Poonam mentioned, but also Alex. I met Alex when he was in the Superintendent's Advisory Commission, and I knew he was a leader. So this summer when we were hiring a principal at El Dorado, I've never had a student participate as part of the SOT until Alex showed up in the video screen. And State Superintendent, we do share him because I know he sits on your state board. He sits on the State Board of Education in the state of Nevada. So he's a busy man. So sign me up. Where do I make the donations? Where's the pack, Poonam? You got it? He's going to be a great leader for us. But before I continue on my remarks, I do want to thank my 7 bosses. I know that our president, Trustee Cavazos, was on her way, and she had a little bit of an accident, so she's dealed up, but she's okay. Everything's fine. So also my vice president, Trustee Cepeda, our clerk, Evelyn Garcia Morales, Trustee Brooks, who's here, and those who are virtually. I know that Trustee Guzman and Trustee Williams are working and couldn't make it, and Trustee Ford as well. So I wanted to thank my 7 bosses. And as Trustee Cepeda mentioned, and others, this has been one of the most difficult years that we have ever faced in public education. 2020 showed us tenacity, strength, and resiliency. It also forced all of us to roll up our sleeves and think differently about how we are to provide a public education across the country. And to date, I'm sure has been one of their biggest challenges in public life, public service. It has been, I'm going to tell you, has been the biggest challenge in my education career in over 25 years. So it is my honor to recognize our trustees who are here with me. I would also like to offer gratitude to former trustees who also served us for 12 years in our community. Trustee Garvey, Trustee Deanna Wright, and Trustee Dr. Linda Young. 12 years of service is a long time for this community. So those of you who are joining us virtually and those of you who are here, thank you, thank you, thank you, and to the WIN for their partnership. There's others, the Public Ed Foundation, Cox Communications, Community and Schools, also key partners in our work. However, it will never, ever continue in the same way. As adults, we have to provide a quality education, and it's going to be different. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it looks like, but it will be different. COVID-19 nearly dismantled every single infrastructure that we collectively built. But it will never, ever, as you hear today, dismantle a body of people committed to one of the most powerful tools known to mankind, and that is an education. If we stick together, there's nothing that can stop us. I'd also like to thank my cabinet, who is virtually watching, I hope. They should be working. Nah. I know my deputy is here, my chief of staff is also here, and I know we have members of our bargaining units who are here. I know Jen Giles is here in the back. I know Marie Neese is here, and I think Mr. Derek Bello from Casapi, they're working. I talked to them this morning, getting ready for March 1. But despite the countless obstacles that have stood in our way and the insurmountable challenges that we are facing ahead, I tell you without hesitation that we are one team, 41,000 strong, committed to providing a high-quality education for our children. And we're going to move forward. Take a look at this quote on the screen. If you can't fly, you run, and if you can run, you walk. If you can't walk, you crawl. But by all means, keep moving forward. That's our message, and that's what we often say in our district. It brings people, difficult times bring people together. I'm going to tell you, I still remember, and you'll see some clips, I still remember State Superintendent when we were on the phone March 11th, 12th, when the governor on the 15th on that Sunday. We went to work and we haven't stopped. And not that we're not committed. We've gotten to know all of us very closely. I know that we've eaten a lot of Doritos, graham crackers to just keep us going. But you know what? Our theme, 2021, Together We Triumph. 2021, Together We Triumph. When we met a year ago here at the Wynn, we had entertainment from our students. The choir, our string ensemble, didn't know that months later, we were going to be faced with the decisions that we had to face. Couldn't imagine this pandemic was around the corner. Certainly, when the governor and we were sitting there in March, we were thinking, okay, after spring break, we'll come back to school. Then I said, well, maybe we'll get to summer and we can try face-to-face instruction in the summer. It's now been almost a year. When our governor announced it, it was the best decision under tough situations to close our campuses. But since then, our number one priority has been the health and wellness of our adults and our children as number one priority. Not one day goes by that I don't wake up thinking about how do we face our kids? What do we need to do differently? Come up with different ideas. After I exercise in the morning, I called Dr. Larson Mitchell, my deputy and my chief of staff. I said, what about this? Can we try this? They said, okay, you're losing oxygen. Get back and get some rest. I said, can we try? What about if we do it this way? Well, we have to follow guidelines. How do we find ways to help and change what we're doing? Because COVID-19 has impacted every socioeconomic group in Clark County, in the country, in the world. We have all suffered a great deal since the unsettling presence pushed its way into our lives, and we will have to find a way to happier times. As Trustee Cepeda mentioned, we're seeing a glimpse at the light at the end of the tunnel. But before I continue, I want you to take a look at this video.
Breaking news tonight, the new stay-at-home orders as cases surge past 200,000 in the U.S., the death toll rising toward 5,000.
K-12 schools are also temporarily closing in some districts across the country.
2020, a year that brought tragedy and strife to millions globally. Schools worldwide shut down due to the insidious COVID-19, and the Clark County School District was no exception.
We have concluded that all of Nevada's K-12 schools will close for students starting tomorrow and will remain closed at a minimum until April 6, 2020.
Since last March, our challenges have been countless, and as this unpredictable virus rages on, our economy continues to falter, directly impacting families, many of whom rely heavily on Nevada's COVID-ravaged tourism industry. Ongoing isolation has caused anguish for many, in some cases, leading to unimaginable tragedy. With our grief, we remain as focused as ever on creating a more supportive, just, and equitable system for our 315,000 students. In 2020, not only did teachers, parents, and students transition to a distance learning curriculum in just 1 week, they did it through a collaborative community effort. To date, more than 247,000 devices have been given to students and families in need, and our administrators and staff have provided crucial support as students learn virtually. More than 9.8 million nutritious meals have been provided to students, and some staff have gone the extra mile and built desks for students to use as they take classes at home. These are just a few examples of how we have worked together during this time of great adversity. We will soon begin a return to the classroom that may bring with it a new set of challenges, but we must remember all we have accomplished. We have faced the year 2020, and it will take a tremendous amount of courage to face the months ahead. But there is no challenge we, the Clark County school community, cannot meet when unified.
It's been a rough year. We're tired, we're stressed, but there's nothing going to stop us. Because we think about, what about that parent that's lost their job? What about that child whose only safe place was our school? What about that kid, as we always focus on our children, that their motivation to come to school was the marching band, the theater, the football team? What about them? That's our effort, and that's why we stay focused on what do we need to do for our kids. So this school year has been taxing on the economy. It has been especially taxing on this community. This is why we must continue to fight for 15,000 kids, because you know what? They are counting on us. They are counting on the adults to get it right, to help them come to school, to educate them. And I'm going to say this. I say it's been stressful, but I'm going to be candid that as difficult as it's been, our teachers, our staff, our support staff, they're doing the best they can. If you think about turning the 5th largest district upside down and doing the best we can to provide a quality education, it's pretty remarkable. So the stress, the isolation are byproducts of this pandemic. And experts say that there are major factors in these strategies. As a superintendent and also a father, there's no worse news. I'm going to tell you there's no worse news to receive or relay to a parent the death of a child. Since this pandemic, we've lost 20 students to suicide. A reality that was nearly unthinkable before now. We're not merely a school district under stress. We are in grief. I'm going to tell you, we grieve the loss of our kids. But we're committed. A few weeks ago, I spoke to the parents of one of our students, a young man who had just graduated with honors. The sound of their pain, when I talked to them, I said, I have no words. I have no words. Their conversation with me still cripples me today. I cannot imagine their anguish, their frustration, but we must respect the desire to ensure that not one more student from Clark County succumbs to this horrific end. Pamela and Mark Orr are here with us with their son, Nicholas Orr, who, by the way, is a teacher in Clark High School. I am humbled and I'm honored to have them here because they said to me, what can we do? What can we do to help you? What do we need to do to help this community? Pam and Mark, can you please stand? And Nicholas. Thank you. So we are in the infancy phases, and we're creating a platform of support to help our community. Health experts, educators, advocates, philanthropists, professionals we're going to work together to address this mental health crisis in our community. Because so many of our children in our schools, in our community, are suffering. So Pam and Mark are here, and they're going to be part of the solution with Clark County School District. So that's exciting. But I also want to thank every principal, every licensed educator, every support professional, counselor, social worker, school psychologist, and community partner who is also helping to protect our most precious asset in our community, which is our children. This is the work, I'm telling you, this is the work that drives me every single day. So when you look at this slide, this is part of the work that we're doing with a lifelong program. We've created every high school, every middle school, and every elementary school has a multi-leadership team in our schools. They're looking at data, they're looking at needs of our schools, of our children, to address their health, their support, looking at attendance, looking at engagement, and they're calling in our students. We also partner with Go Guardian and Beacon to get alerts. Our police department has also refocused their work because now they're doing wellness checks at home to check on our kids. That is the work that has pushed us to think differently in how we connect and how we find solutions for our children. The connection line is something else that we're doing. This came from the work in our conversations. 24/7, social workers, school psychologists, counselors are on the phone available for our kids who are struggling. And it's not just kids, we've had educators that have called as well. Through Thanksgiving and the Christmas break, they're helping to make sure that our children have the opportunity to speak to an adult that cares. Our family engagement and parent and guardian communication with our partners have gone out. We can't wait for them, so now we go to them. So we have been providing families with lessons and classrooms. How do we navigate distance education? How do we partner with our business community and go to their work sites and help our parents navigate? Those are some of the lessons and some of the things that we've had to provide our community. We'll talk a little bit more about distance education, but let's talk a little bit about some of the other successes that we've had. Our graduation rate is over 80%. 21,342 students graduated from high school. Close to 9,000 went on to college, according to the National Clearinghouse. Over $300 million in scholarship last year. 52 of our students were finalists in the National Merit Scholarship Program. From Coronado High School, Demi Lee, a presidential scholar in the top 1% of America from Clark County School District. Great things are happening here. We have great pockets of excellence. Her achievement, academic achievement, is remarkable. More good news, and I know that the state superintendent had a great opportunity, and Juliana Uribe from Booker Senior Innovative Elementary, our Teacher of the Year for the state of Nevada. And if you haven't seen it on Twitter, because that's where we get our news media sometimes, a lot of times, she is a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year in Clark County School District. Very proud of Juliana. So speaking of educators, we also commission, and I name them commissions. I was trying to find a name when we were thinking of the name task force, and not that all task force, because I know the governor's task force was doing a lot of work, but you know, task force, commissions, different things. It's like Poonam said, right? Oh, a nice binder, and you put it on the shelf, right? So I found another term. It's like a working commission because we have work to do. So I created a teacher and retention commission. What's going on? How do we open schools every year? And when I got here my first year, I said, what's our fill rate? What's our vacancy rate first day of school, right? Oh, 98%. Sounds good, right? 98%, 97%, wow, you know, it's close. I say, well, how many teachers is that? 450 teachers. And then I said, well, count that times 30, Marie, times 25 kids. Just kidding, 40 kids, 35 kids. So you do the math, it's a lot of kids without a certified, highly qualified teacher. That's a problem, right? That's a problem, because whose kid is not going to be in front of a teacher that is certified and highly qualified? So we created a commission, put together some of the best business HR folks, because you have to learn from the business community. Because I'm telling you, in the business community, if you don't hire quickly, you lose them to their competitor. So we have to learn from them. We put our teachers, we put our bargaining unit, and our higher ed institutions, and said, here's the data. Tell me how we get better. Because we have to get better. We cannot afford. Last year we opened school. The reality is that we had close to 12,000 students without a certified teacher. So whose kid? Not my kid. If it's not good enough for my kid, then why is it good enough for somebody else's kid? That's a sense of urgency that we have to have when we run our schools. So they said, you know what, Superintendent, I see the alignment in Focus 2024, but we have a teacher pipeline issue. Folks are not going into education. The higher ed institutions, is not their fault. They're not getting enough students going into higher education, so we have to build and we have to create our own. How do we build our pipeline? So those are some of the things that we're doing. Streamlining our HR process. Absolutely critical. I can't have principals wait 50 days once we touch a recruit, right? And wait 50, 60 days that they're in the classroom. So what do we need to do to shrink that timeline? Because guess what? Then you lose them. You lose them to other places. You lose them to our competitors. So we have to do better. What do we need to do differently to help? Working with the state. Those are all the things that are in the commission, and we're excited that we have to start addressing and making changes to help our principals hire quickly to get teachers in the classroom. And a clear focus on diversity. We have to diversify our teacher workforce, because if we don't, we cannot diversify our leadership. So it's a cycle. Our kids need to see role models. We have to build our own. And then why do we go out and recruit? We spend a lot of money recruiting outside of the state of Nevada. Let's build our own pipeline here. So we're excited, and we'll be reporting in some of that work. So as we've been dealing with COVID, addressing the health and wellness of our kids, our little part-time job that we've had between 8 o'clock and 5 in the morning is we've started looking at, okay, how do we improve our teaching and learning systems? We had no systems. We had no systems. There was no, when I say, well, why do we do things this way? It's, well, this is the way we've always done it. And then I go back and I say, well, how's it working? How's that working? Look at our data. Look at our student achievement data. It's on our strategic plan. 34% of our children in middle school are proficient in mathematics. That's the reality, folks. So it's how do we do things differently? So we've built and increased school associate superintendents. Guess what? We didn't increase our budget. We reallocated dollars and lower the principal to principal supervisor ratio. It's not about more money, and I always push, it's not about adding more money internally. It's how do we do a better job with the money that we have. So we've increased our school associate superintendent to principal ratio with a focus on instructional leadership. We've implemented, for the first time, we've increased and implemented, and now we have a department on professional learning, because you have to continue to learn. We learn every day, so we have to invest in our people and updating our pathways to leadership. We have to build our own. So those are some of the things that we have been doing part-time as we've been dealing with COVID, because when we come back, and now we're helping our schools improve our practice. We've also provided and completed with the Council of Great City School Support an in-depth review of our special ed department. We have recommendations that are aligned to our strategic plan, and now we focus on making those recommendations a reality. We've implemented comprehensive, we've said this last year, now it's a reality, map growth assessment. We have to know where our kids are in order for us to support them. We did it remotely, and you know what? The data for K2, was a little concerning. I had some first graders that were outperforming fifth graders. I think the parents were so excited to support a first grader. But our principals knew. But you know what? Third, fourth, and fifth was pretty accurate to last year. So you look at the data as a data point. But that's important for us to know where are our kids today and how do we help them and how do we provide some professional support. And that has been implemented K-10. Progress monitoring, for the first time ever, our principal supervisors have a monitoring tool because we were all over the place. When I got here, we had 13 different ways of assessing schools. Now we have one, And this is a conversation that Poonam and I have and others. When you look at a business, and not that I'm comparing us to a business, but our kids, we have to learn. If it's happening and we're doing some great things in certain schools, then why don't we replicate it, right? So we have to monitor the same way across our schools. How do we then help and then differentiate depending on the community and support? So we're providing, and now we're implementing a very systemic approach in progress monitoring what's happening in our schools. And now, part of the Equity Commission, now we have a way to address and place children in accelerated courses. Because we knew, I reported last year, that there were certain schools that did not have access, certain students did not have access to Algebra 1 in middle school in certain communities. Guess what community that was? Now we have a way, we use map growth data, which is not biased. We use student achievement data instead of adult biases, and kids are placed in Algebra 1. If you can perform, you're placed in Algebra 1 in middle school and geometry. Some kids are getting accelerated with 2 high school courses. So now we have a system of doing all of these things to support our children. Transparency is key, and two-way communication. I've included, and now I started this year, bringing in principals. I have a principal roundtable. I meet quarterly with our principals. Random selection that I have a quarterly meeting with principals. What's the feedback from the field? And it's me and the principals. I don't have anybody else in my cabinet because I think it's important for them to be honest and share with me. What are we hearing? What am I seeing that I need to share with the boss? So I have quarterly principal roundtables. I've also added 10 principals into my cabinet because I think it's important for the rest of my cabinet to hear, things aren't going as well, and be honest and say it in front of me and in front of all of us. So then how do we get better? We have to work together. This work is hard enough. We have to work together as one. I also included and did some listening tours with members of the community, with the members of the legislature during distance education. What's going wrong? What's going well? What do we need to do more of? I did it with all my with not all, but I did teachers, I did support professionals, I did parents, and elected officials and community leaders. And out of that work, we're looking at what the state is doing with the Blue Ribbon Commission, which is, by the way, great work. How do we align to what the state is doing as we come back? Because with our data, and it's not just Clark County, with our data in public education, pre-COVID, school was working for some kids. It wasn't working for all kids. So I say this and I challenge the team all the time. Shame on us if we come back and deliver the same education. Because we know that it was only working for some kids in urban schools. So how does it work for all kids? And we have to think differently. I know we've had conversations. Why do we have to sit, and I know the state superintendent is going to agree, I think. Why do we have to sit in Algebra 1? I always pick on math. I'm sorry. I was a science teacher. But why do we have to sit, let me say, why do you have to sit in biology for 180 days? If you know the content and you can demonstrate that you know the content, why do we? Because we say so? If you come from Mexico or from Venezuela or from Colombia and you speak Spanish, why do we make you take 2 years of foreign language? If you can demonstrate that you speak the language, why do? These are things that we have to think differently. Because what we've learned is that, you know what? With distance education, what we've learned, kids that were struggling before are now excelling. Because they're at their own pace. So we have to help that kid and that teacher, right? So how do we change what we're doing and provide more choice so we're more competitive? Those are all the things that we need to think about. A nation that does not stand for its children does not stand for anything and will not stand tall in the future. As Marian Edelman said that, I challenge you. We can change a nation. We can change that to a county that does not stand, a school system that does not stand for its children, a state that does not stand for its children, a country that does not stand for its children, will not stand tall in the future. We are laser focused on 2024, and we're going to continue to be aggressive. Our Equity Commission, as we've talked about, when we went to closing our schools, called Dr. Barton. First call was Dr. Barton. I said, change the focus of the Equity Commission because we have a huge equity gap with technology. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then the second call was to Poonam. I said, Poonam, we're changing the focus because it was all about academics, about access, about opportunities. But then we saw a huge equity gap in our technology. So we had to switch. But then in the meantime, after we got that going, after we got all the computers and got all the connectivity, then we said, okay, let's get back to the work that we needed to do. So universal screening for all second graders is a reality. In the past, it used to be those who could afford it got a gifted screening. Now, all second graders across the school system, and I announced that, and it became a reality. In Clark County School District, all second graders are screened for gifted. Because you know what? If mom and dad, or grandma and grandpa, or older brother or sister that I'm living with in second grade, I don't know, because I'm busy working and making a living, I don't know that I need to go get tested because I'm gifted. Now we are going to find you as a school system. And that's become a reality. I talked about the accelerated courseworks. I talked about now we have a tool. We have a map, a roadmap for our building principals to say, if you meet this criteria, if you score here, 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 this is the class that you're going to be placed in. Because I still haven't met that 14-year-old. Maybe there's a couple. It wasn't me. I haven't met that 14-year-old that says, sign me up for a harder class. Please, Mom. Please, Mr. Jara, sign me up. I want to take a more there's a few percentage, but I know it wasn't me. So we have to encourage you to challenge yourself. So those are the conversations, and now we're using those conversations with our building principals, and it's collectively as a whole. And we see our partners that have come to the table. We've had Achieve 3000 that's come to the table, and our teachers providing online supplemental. It does not replace our curriculum. It is extra. It is to support our children and our teachers, professional development. Canvas is a learning management system. We are not where we need to be. I'm going to be totally honest. I know Rebecca's here, and we have many conversations about Canvas. But now we have to get to a place where everybody, because we are frustrating parents. And I know that, but we have to move quickly, but also with purpose, without frustrating everybody. Right now, our parents, because we're all over the place, we have to get to a narrow place, and we will this spring. Cox Communication, Connect to Compete. We went into families' homes and provided technology for our kids. Communication, as you look at this quote, communications is merely an exchange of information, but connection is an exchange of humanity. I am certain that our work moving forward in Clark County will serve as an equity model across the district. This community, I've said this from day one, this is a phenomenal community when they wrap their arms around our kids. We've demonstrated it with the Connecting Kids. We can do it with others. It is our goal to ensure that all students have the access to an array of pathways for every single student that we serve. Prior to the virus, if you think about it, prior to the virus, distance education was for those schools that had maybe a grant, maybe a pilot, and in certain communities. It wasn't for all. I talked about the 5th largest district, 300,000 plus students now have access to technology. We have to keep it. We have to continue to invest in our technology for our children, because now when we come back, we can't go backwards. We can't slow them down. So we are battling the pros and cons. Prior to this, no research, as I said, has been done on the 300,000 kids with technology. So look at this slide on the screen to see how aggressively we have ensured. We've provided weekly schedules for distance education, professional learning, not enough professional development. Think about shutting down in a week's time from what we know, what we knew of, to where we are in distance education. Vegas PBS, phenomenal organization within Clark County School District. In 3 weeks, 5 million viewers, and we started providing instruction via the TV to get to our kids. So as we continue to focus on our students, we will continue to address the gap that COVID-19 has exposed across the country. It has amplified the inequities in public education. So we must continue to partner not only with the state, but with the federal delegation, because this is not a short-term fix. This is not, the gaps, I'm going to say this, the gaps are not going to be fixed by offering after-school tutoring and Saturday school or summer school. This is going to be a commitment that I believe the federal government has to invest long-term to address the academic loss, the academic crisis, the health crisis, and the mental health crisis that we're facing, not only for our students, but also for our educators. So as we mentioned, the governor's task force, our communities and schools partner, Public Ed Foundation, 247,000 devices distributed across Clark County, providing 18,454 students with internet connectivity. Kids that didn't have connectivity now have connectivity. Over 6,000 went to Cox, and then we were providing 12,000 hotspots. Because if you didn't realize that Clark County, there's sections of Clark County that you drive through, and you're on a Zoom call, not when you're driving, you're on the passenger side, or you're on the phone and your call drops. The beauty of our state is that we have dead spots, and we have areas that we had to address. And on Saturday, because you know what, our partners are delivering the hotspots, our principals are opening the doors, and our teachers and our support staff to deliver technologies to our kids. We saw that Saturdays and Sundays, on and on and on, to get to our kids. This is the beauty of the 41,000 plus students that, 41,000 plus educators and adults that serve our kids. We have been working extremely hard and committed for this cause because our kids deserve it. It's been difficult. It hasn't been without a challenge. But you know what? We come back and get up in the morning and come back to address the needs. Our food service department, unreal, unsung heroes. I remember that Sunday with the governor standing next to him, and we went to work. Monday morning, our kids were being fed. Our food service staff said, we'll be there. Masked up, put their gloves on, opened up, and started serving. Our partners, 3 Squares, Community and Schools, others said, what can we do? City of Henderson, North Las Vegas, everybody is coming together. Superintendent, what can we do to help you? We started with 30 sites for food, and we moved to about 50 during the summer, working with the state, working with the federal government, got the waivers. We were feeding all kids, close to 9.8 million meals served in this community. That is the work of our phenomenal staff that has done great work on behalf of this community. We are part of this community. Our traditional public schools are part of this community. We need everybody on the team, and I'm calling you on the team. But we're going to come with solutions to help, because we have been working and will continue as one team. And as I stated earlier, the need for advanced technology will continue to be a message that needs to resonate across the state, because this investment has to continue moving forward. It's a recurring cost that we have to invest in. So our Connecting Kids, as I talked about, has been invaluable. When Poonam says, Superintendent, they're going to be on the phone at 6 to get started, can you be there? Absolutely. Put a hat on after my exercise. I said, get me on the call. I got on the call. Volunteers. Volunteers, I know our board did the same thing. Volunteers that were getting their marching orders. Two of the ladies that were sending marching orders with a list of kids and knocking on kids' homes and saying, you haven't connected with us. Where are you? What do you need? Oh, I don't have technology. Let me call Cox. Let me get you connected. Volunteers in this community on behalf of our kids. So I couldn't be more proud of our partnership with the Connecting Kids and the thousands of volunteers that we're checking on our children to make sure that they were connecting. So now we're moving into our facilities. We don't know when we come back what our schools, what are going to look like educational, our instructional model, but we know that our facilities department has been working hard to make sure that our work orders, if I give you some numbers, I'm all about data and numbers, before COVID, 15,666 work orders. To date, 8,000. And that's with the shutdown, coming back, with social distancing. We're close to about 8,000 work orders that we have to address for our schools. And we will get there. We have to be more proactive to address our needs. So when we're able to welcome our students back in our schools will be cleaner to make sure that our parents have that peace of mind. So we also look at our renovation, looking at our capital investment, $400 million. $400 million invested in our community. That means more jobs in the county to build schools and to renovate our program. We've upgraded our football fields, something that you would say, well, why are you doing that? They're not playing football. It's a perfect time. Something that needed to be done for the safety of our children. 29 of our football fields some of them were shut down, they were unsafe. So our chief of facilities said, Superintendent, and by the way, it's not any more money, it's reallocating resources. Where do we find the money to address the needs so our children come back and play football? Our marching band can practice on a football field. Our girls' flag football can play on a brand new football field. So it's not just about boys football, it's about our athletic program. And guess what? We're also saving $1 million a year on water. We have to be smarter with the money that we have. We're also building 2 new middle schools, 1 new middle school and 2 elementary schools in this year. I'm really excited about the next project. Our next project, our global community high school. Our newcomers, we're expanding it. And I'm excited that our kids, our newcomers, will have a new building. We're also adding a workforce high school to the campus. When I say campus, it's big enough to have 2 different buildings, one building that's connected. Because guess what? This community, not everybody, we know from the data, not everybody goes to college. So what are we doing as a school system to make sure that our kids graduate and go right into the workforce? So I'm excited, extremely excited about our workforce high school. Guess what? Our partner Workforce Connection is going to have an office there. Because when mom and dad come and register the newcomer, we're going to put an office for Workforce Connection so we can help them get employed. And we're going to have an intake center in another part of the campus with daycare. It's a community feel, and I'm extremely excited, and you see it's set to open 22-23, but the work starts today. We've also completed J.D. Smith in North Las Vegas. As I talked about our food service department, the 9 million meals, and now let's get into distance education. It's been a challenge, and we know that. So we will continue to address that for our parents. Because we know that we have to get better. And I know that we will work with our parents. And the next thing is our financial and our budget. When I got here, actually, as I was interviewing for the job, I remember, I think we had just cut $65 million out of the budget. $65 million out of our budget. And I know that I heard the board loud and clear through the interview process that we needed to strengthen our finances. We do, and we have, under our Chief Finance Officer, Jason Gowdy, and the Budget Department, we have the strongest finances in over 10 years. As a matter of fact, last night, I announced to the board that we were recommended to move away from being under fiscal watch. That's when you clap. We're committed to our employees. As a school system, this board has been committed to our employees. Our employees got the raises the last 2 years that we have promised. The big thing that I ask you to keep in the forefront of your mind is our new funding formula, SB 543, that we continue to support, because you know what? That formula needed to change. 53 years. 53 years old. We were funding our public schools in a 53-year-old formula. Last legislation, it passed. I know that our funding commission has been working hard with a new formula, make some recommendations, and I think it's important because we need to fund our schools with a diverse population of children that we serve. And it's a student-centered formula. It's around the money and our kids. It's also more transparent, acknowledging the geographic diversity of our district and our schools. And there is hold harmless during this funding transition. And I ask you to keep an eye on it. I'm not going to tell you either way. Don't want to get in trouble with my general counsel. But I'm going to tell you that it's important because it will help the children here in Clark County. And we need to have a student pupil center funding formula. Because if we were to continue prior funding model, it would have been on how much money you spent in previous years. This is the most significant legislation in decades in the state of Nevada. So we need this funding formula to go through. So finally, I want to talk about something that we're all wondering about, our return to face-to-face instruction, March 1st. And when we return, 50% of normal capacity. To maintain social distancing, we will also be adopting our safeguards that become so routine for all of us. If you look at this state of the schools, if you look at where we are, social distancing, wearing masks, hand washing, and taking care of yourself. Proud of the work that we've done with our bargaining units to address the safety and wellness of our employees. I am grateful that you're here, and I'm excited of where we're going in the near future, because we're going to continue to stay united facing these challenges head on. Some people say, how do you do it? Because I'm stubborn. I guess you ask my mother. She would be the first one to tell you I was stubborn then, I'm still stubborn. I can't give up. I can't give up because of kids like Alex, the kids that you saw. They're counting on us. They're counting on me. They're counting on you. Hopefully next year things will be different. When I say hopefully, they will be different. We'll be in a different spot. I will be sharing with you, I guarantee you that I will be sharing you the successes that we will be celebrating because of the staff, the 42,000 employees that I have the honor to work with. We will be sharing many of the successes that we have. We are confident that our plans, our buildings will look better. We'll be in a learning space that will be serving every single student. I look forward to, somebody asked me this week, what do you miss? And I said, well, when I was a high school principal and a middle school administrator for 18 months, I was in high school for a long time. I said, boy, did I not want to go to a lunchroom. I miss lunch in the cafeteria with kids. I miss the hallways when you see the kids running around. I miss a basketball game. That's what we are looking forward to coming back. The strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from their indomitable will. We have the will to do great things in our school system. I wish all of us an improved state of health, well-being, and triumphs. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. The journey here begins today. Thank you so much.